Okay, good evening. This is the November 16th meeting of the Auburn Finance Committee. Tonight's, the first thing I'm going to read is the remote participation script. In this open meeting of the Town of Auburn Finance Committee is being conducted both in person and remotely, consistent with Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For the public to join the meeting remotely by telephone, 1-786-535-3211 and access code 991-599-357, or the public can join via computer at global.gotomeeting.com. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Auburn Cable Television. So, permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda participating remotely are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Kennedy.
Here.
Ed Coleman.
Here.
Michael Marshall.
Present.
Patrick Jones.
Present.
And Diane Byrne.
Here.
Thank you. Town officials and employees participating, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. CFO Assistant Town Manager Ed Kazanovich.
Here.
And Administrative Assistant Sharon Kwiatkowski.
Here.
Here, okay. So please note that each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Okay, so tonight's agenda, the first thing we're going to have is the fiscal 2024 budget kickoff meeting. And it's nice to see all the department and division heads here that gave up your time to come in tonight. Then we're going to review and vote on transfer requests, talk about the minutes from 2 meetings, and then adjourn. Okay, so I turn it over to Mr. Kazanovich.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Tonight officially begins our process to start the FY24 budget. We want to get an early start for a number of reasons. One, there'll be a change in the administration effective January 30th, and that's really right in the heart of when we have budget discussions. So we're trying to get a jump on that, hoping to bring it at least to round the third corner. We're not dealing with new personnel and changes that may stall or disrupt the process. That being said, I have about a 15-minute presentation that I would like to show you. I just want to make everyone in attendance aware that there are packets on the table that contain the standard forms necessary to complete the budget. And I'll answer any questions along the way or at the conclusion of the presentation. Madam Chair, is this showing live?
No.
I think you have to make me a presenter.
Oh, okay, all right. All right. I think I do that here, right? Nope. Which one is him? Oh, right here I have to make.
You have to make him a presenter.
Finance, so how do I make him a presenter though? I might need some assistance, Mr. Kazanovich.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Is it showing now?
no. So if you're not showing, how can I make it presenter? Oh, this is finance committee. And this is the drop down. Do you want me to show you? Okay. Stop sharing my webcam. And that one?
Caleb?
Coming up. Yeah.
Thank you.
This is the phone, number one.
The laptop isn't meeting. I'm going to connect it now.
Mike Marino was on.
No, those are all people that are on. I don't, his,
I don't think that computer's logged into the meeting.
There it is. It is now. Okay, I'm ready. Yeah, Mike's logged on.
yeah,
That's you.
there it is. Right?
Town Hall podium.
Is it showing there, Town Hall
You get an
podium?
invitation to share your screen.
Mike's doing it remote.
Okay,
There we
There it
go.
is.
good, thank you.
Thank you, Caleb.
You know, how come that's not showing on this?
There it is.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, thank you. I think we're good to go. Okay, so with respect to the 24 budget, I am concerned about what we're seeing now and what uncertainty the next fiscal year is going to bring. In terms of, we have a new administration at the state level, a new governor, and a new administration. What that's going to mean for local aid and state grant distribution remains to be seen. We have to deal with the midterm elections and what that may result in as a result of a change in leadership. We can, as I said earlier, the level of state aid is of some concern. We were fortunate in terms of a great distribution of Chapter 70 in FY '23. I'm not so sure that we're going to see that in FY '24. The state of the national local economy is a concern. As you can see, we've seen high inflation, although it was reduced from the month of September down to a level of 7.7%, coming off a high of a average 8.6% over the past year. We're currently seeing escalating interest rates, which would lead to higher borrowing costs for our capital needs. We're seeing an increased cost as we're reviewing our capital for all of our vehicles, whether it be cruisers, whether it be trucks, or just regular equipment. We're also seeing a delay in delivery on those vehicles as well. So that's become very challenging. In some cases, we try to advance purchase some of our vehicles knowing that there's going to be a shipment and a delay. But that's caused a lot of concern, and we're reviewing that cost as part of the process in review of our capital for FY '24. We continue to see an increased cost in utilities, whether it be electricity, gas, diesel, heating oil, natural gas. Our motor vehicle costs continue to rise. That's fluctuating every day. Where that's going in the future, we don't know. And we're seeing, and we were notified by the school department that we're seeing an increase in special ed costs of about an average of 14%. So it's going to have an impact on the school department budget. For purposes of formulating the budget, we came out of town meeting. We used that as a basis to build the starting point for FY '24. This budget utilizes for presentation purposes all of 2.5, like we do every year. And it increases costs, which I'll get into as we get a little further into the presentation. As you can see, our total revenue over expense actually is down from our final figures for FY '23. It's down because we've subtracted out the appropriations that were made for free cash and stabilization, as well as overlay surplus. So that's about a value of about 1.2 million. So as you can see, revenue is down about 438,000, appropriations are down about the same. When we look at the revenue, we are using all of Prop 2.5, and there's an earmark every year for our capital improvement program, once again in accordance with our financial policies, 0.25% or 1/10 of 2.5. This budget estimates and utilizes $450,000 of new growth. That being said, our excess levy would remain at FY '23 level of about $8.270 million. That means we'd have a levy utilization of about 84.81%. Our unused levy would be about 15.19%. This budget raises about $2.7 million outside of the levy limit for the high school debt and the middle school debt. Once again, FY '24 is going to be the final year of our debt obligation for the high school. That's going to be retired. As we look at our new growth, we estimate 450. As you can see, we averaged $748,422 over the last 5 years. Normally, anything above what we estimate in new growth, we used to soften the level of taxation on Prop 2.5. So I know we're starting out at 2.5. FY '23, we managed to get that down to 1.69, 1.67%. So the starting point is 2.5. If we have excess new growth, that will come off that 2.5 by an amount to be determined. Here's a snapshot of our FY '24 levy. So we're starting out with a levy base of $52.7 million. Our 2.5 increase allowable would be $1.3 million. New growth, $450,000. Level of taxation based upon the budget before you tonight, we would tax $46,187,000 and change, leading to a levy utilization of 84.81. Here's our excess levy history, and this is something we show at the annual and fall town meeting. As you can see, for FY '23, we taxed at a level of 1.69, and as you go down the line, you can see the level of taxation each year. So we haven't come close to 2.5 over this period of time, and that results in a savings of roughly $57 million over that 10-year period. Our cherry sheet, right now we're providing for a growth factor of 1%. And this is one of the big question marks. So the state economy has done well. There was a $3 billion revenue surplus, which is being distributed to each and every taxpayer in the Commonwealth. Hopefully that trend will continue, but with the national economy being what it is, we don't know if that's going to happen. Continuing on with our revenue, our available funds, we're estimating $1.377 million. The budgetary reduction I identified as being down 0.5% or down 400 some odd thousand is primarily due to these first two bullets. We had a reduction in overlay surplus that was appropriated in FY '23. That's not part of the '24. And we appropriated $320,000 in free cash. That's currently not part of this equation for FY '24. We We have a $500,000 reduction in ambulance receipts in FY '23. We had a capital purchase of $300,000, and we had outside articles for fire rescue equipment that was passed at the fall town meeting. We had a reduction in our sewer retained earnings of 155. That also was passed at the fall town meeting. And we had a reduction in ACTV, access cable retained earnings of 70,000. Here's a listing of our available funds as it compares to FY '23. We had 3.7 versus 1.7, reduction of $2 million. Right now, our local receipts, we're level funding as we typically do this time of year for budgetary purposes for FY '24. Here's a listing of our local receipts. These are the receipts that will be submitted to DOR for FY '23 and certified in the coming weeks. When we look at our total revenue, it's projected to be $78,057,000, roughly $651. That's a 0.5% or 0.56% down over FY '23. It's a reduction of $438,825.58. Now on the expense side, to highlight some of the changes and increases, it indexes all of our wage-related obligations by a little over $1,005,000. When we look at what that represents in terms of our 2.5 level, that would absorb about 76.29% of our total allowable 2.5%. For those of you department heads, I want to make clear that we are calculating wages at a level 52 weeks this year. Our value for wages in the budget have been indexed by an average of 2.5%. Our estimates for solid waste pickup and contractual increase is up 3.5%. That includes our recycling costs. Our employee benefits have been indexed by 7%. And this budget provides for all of our debt and interest obligations, including a recent ban we went out for this week of $600,000. It adds an additional $130,000 towards our capital needs in accordance with the financial policies. That's 1/10 of 2.5. And our current tax levy revenue source for CIP is roughly $1.58 million. So when we started the financial plan, we were not contributing any tax levy towards our CIP. We're contributing almost $1.6 million, thus lessening the need to fund our capital needs through bond proceeds or other revenue sources. There is no OPEB funding in the budget right now or stabilization. That consideration will be made in the fall like we've done the last several years. Level funds our snow and ice at FY '23 level, and it level funds our Medicaid receipts recently amended at the fall town meeting at 125. Continuing with the expense, it level funds the appropriation required for our cherry sheet assessments, charges, and offsets. The budget includes our adopted financial policies, year 11. As I stated earlier, no earmark for stabilization. We put an increase for Bay Path assessment at 2.5%. That may be less or higher, all depending on the school enrollment numbers that are due to come out shortly. And it level funds our Norfolk Aggie school assessment. I'm not aware of any recent discussions about any additional enrollment at this point in time. Here are the appropriations by department. There's no need to go through this now. You can take a look at it. That has been provided to each and every member. Once again, leading to total appropriations, direct appropriations for departments at $73,195,976. When we look at our other charges and expenses, that brings the total budget to $76,907,287. And it accounts for wage consideration of 2.5%, that's the $1,000,005, as well as other outside articles for total appropriations of $78,051,543.62. So when we look at the total expense, once again, $78,051,544. It's down 0.57% over current fiscal year, a decrease of $444,933. That would leave a projected surplus, revenues over expenses, just over $6,000. Total appropriations over total revenue, once again, lead to that unobligated balance of $6,107. Certainly, these numbers are going to change. And we haven't even heard from the departments yet. Their budgets have not been submitted. This may have a total different look, but it's a best guess based upon what's in place right now, what we can expect for some of our fixed costs. I know there are needs out there on the department level, and we're going to have to prioritize that and see how it fits into the equation as we move along. As things change, we'll convey that to the Finance Committee, and we may be looking for some direction in terms of priorities once those have been identified and submitted when the budget is presented to you. So with that, Madam Chair, members of the Finance Committee, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Gentlemen, questions? Patrick, any questions?
I'm good for the moment, Madam Chair.
And Diane, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
And Michael, do you have any questions?
I'm all set.
Thank you. I just have one question. Have we seen an increase in interest being paid? For instance, on our balances kept in different places? Have we seen an increase in the interest the town is earning?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, so the yield we're getting on whatever cash we may have invested.
Yep.
Certainly, there's long-term investments that are going to yield a higher rate of return. But those that are not in long-term investments, we're seeing a rate of return now at about 2%.
Oh, so, right.
So it is creeping up. It's not gaining as fast as the interest that we're paying on our debt. But certainly, I think there's every expectation that that's going to continue to grow.
Okay.
I did increase not significantly, because that still remains to be seen. There is some growth in interest income, but we may be able to increase that further if the rates continue to go up.
Okay, thank you. Do any members of the audience have any questions for Mr. Kazanovich? Okay, I think we're all set then. Stop webcam sharing. Caleb, sir, I might need you again.
If I could just make a couple of comments.
Yep.
To those in attendance, and thank you for taking the time to come. There has been a timeline provided relative to deadlines for the budget. If you could adhere to those guidelines so we can begin this process in a timely fashion. If you can get it to us earlier, we highly encourage that. And that would allow us to at least begin a process earlier. That may end earlier. If you have any questions along the way, feel free to call if there are any, if we can help you out with anything.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, please. Can we make that not big? Oh, okay, thank you. What's that little thing? Okay, so maybe we should just make it,
Am I interfering with that now?
I dismissed that.
we're just trying to switch it over to what it was before. And, okay. Yep. We just need to get a corner. Can that just be dragged over? No? Maybe if you shut this? It's the view. Ah, there we go. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, well, department heads, I mean, unless you have any more questions for Mr. Kazanovich, thank you for coming tonight, but you don't need to stay for the rest. Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for some reason, we're still seeing your screen.
That's right, that's fine. That's fine, because we don't have any more presenters. Well, how about I just do this, too? There you go. All right, thank you. All right, so going back to our agenda, and could I just ask the people at home maybe just to mute, too? Unless you have a question or something else, just so, because there's some noise there. All right, going back to our agenda, we are going to review and vote on transfer requests. We have 2 transfers, both from the library. Here we go. Do you want to come on right up? So Jean Collins is with us. Nice to see you this evening. The first transfer is an interdepartmental transfer coming from the administration assistant director line, which has a present balance of $60,000. Amount requested is $5,000 going to the building and grounds account. Reason for the transfer: increased costs for HVAC, spring and fall preventative maintenance, unexpected costs of $3,570 to repair and replace rooftop condenser units for issues with failed motors leading to replacement of blower bearings and fan assembly. Upcoming issues with the large automatic entry doors, costs for ongoing replacement of ceiling tiles in Merriam Room, replacement of floor tiles due to wear and tear and stains, cleaning of children's room carpet, window cleaning of large entry double doors. Thank you. Do you want to tell us about that, or is it?
As everything, costs really escalated a lot. We've been sort of doing a lot of improvements in the building since like 7 years that I've been there.
Yep.
Keep thinking we're caught up with everything. When they did the spring maintenance, which we didn't used to have several years ago, we put that in preventive maintenance so we could catch things before they got worse, which is what happened. So that was a major expense. It was over $2,000 for the condenser units on the roof, so that was in addition to the spring preventive maintenance visit. So we still have the fall, which they just came, they didn't find any other issues, thank goodness, but then we still have the spring one. And we've been having some issues with the front doors, so I had them come out and take a look. It's probably going to be about $800 as a sensor that went, so they stay open. So those are big expenses that were added to.
Okay.
To that account.
Do you remember how much is in your account when you start in that building and grounds line?
5,000.
5,000, okay. And will this amount get you through till the end of the fiscal year?
Yes, I believe it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Patrick?
Thank you. I'm just curious because it starts off with increased costs for HVAC, spring and fall preventative maintenance. Do you actually have a maintenance contract? Is it outside the contract repair, or did you renew the contract?
We did have a contract, and we do, but it's kind of split. There's a spring and the fall, so it's not balanced. One of it's 1,200 and one's 1,800, and one of them did go up a little bit, and I anticipate the next time it's going to be even higher.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
Question relative to where that account is coming from. Is that an unfilled position, and what is that going to look like for your request? I know you haven't submitted anything yet, we just talked about this
Right.
year, but what's it going to look like
So
for next year?
that's an assistant director position that was put in. I haven't filled the position yet. I'm currently filling a part-time position in a union position. So it hasn't been filled yet. I plan to start looking for candidates after the holidays, but even so, it'll be halfway through the year, so there'll still be a considerable amount of money in that budget, even if I fill it in January.
Thank you.
Okay, and Michael or Diane, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay,
All set.
all set, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, we'll do the roll call. Kevin?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now the next request, this amount is also is interdepartmental, coming from the Administration Assistant Director line, which now has a balance of $55,000. Amount requested $10,000 to go to the programs line. And the reason for the transfer, budgeted amount was insufficient to support the number and variety of programs requested by our patrons, particularly since this summer was the first in a couple of years where we could once again invite patrons to in-person programming. High cost for materials, sometimes as much as 200% increase, and supply chain issues requiring additional funds to support. External presenters also increased their costs. We anticipate holding an additional 250 to 300 programs throughout the rest of fiscal 23, which will require additional funding beyond our grant allocations and remaining balance, currently at $552. Okay, thank you. That's terrific that there's so much interest in the programs at the library.
Yes, if give it a little bit of context, when we did, because we made a real concerted effort this summer to have everybody come back. We're still there. We kept in touch, with technology and literacy packets and a lot of things and curbside and all that, but patrons wanted to come back. And so this summer, a summer reading program, we had 274 children register, which is more than 100 higher than any other year we've had before. We just had, we held 71 programs in 6.5 weeks, and 64 of those were put on by us. We design and present them, which is a lot of materials, of course. The materials have gone up high.
Okay.
Even our Halloween one, in 3 hours, we had about 240 people come.
Wow.
And we had the Merry Room was all set up with activities, pumpkin decorating also. So with all of those and the number that we had, we did 700 crafts and activities in the Merry Room in those 3 hours. So obviously that it cost a lot. Things are, materials are a lot, and we continue to. 90% of our programs are filled to capacity. A lot of times I'll add another session if I can. And our external presenters, the ones who are still doing it, they have to charge a little more too. So it's money well spent. I believe that's, we're a community. We want to draw the community. So I feel like we're doing a good job with that, and we want to continue to be able to do this. So we'll need more funds.
Thank you. Okay, any questions? Yes, sir?
Just quickly, again, you haven't submitted for the next budget, but should we expect to see a bigger line relative to program costs for the fiscal 24 budget based on the needs and the programs and the demand for the programs as well as the increased costs?
I certainly would like to. I want to keep within the, framework of what we need. I typically do use funds from state aid. I do anticipate getting about another 30,000, because we're in compliance with everything. But yes, I certainly think, because every year we're kind of, am asking for more money for programs. Several years ago, there wasn't even a line item for programs. So that's been new, and people that's what draws circulation out. It used to be the opposite. So, yes, I do believe that I would probably increase that line item.
Thank you.
And just while we've got you, it's more probably an update from the CFO. Where are we with plans for, the plans, well, I guess relative to the whole project on the rear side of the library to include the expanded space for the room? Where's that project stand?
So, actually, that's being discussed now. There was engineering and design work being done, and I think that's being close to being put out for bid. So.
Very close,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we're probably, you know, I would say 30 days away from putting that out. And then that's going to start the whole activity down there in terms of what the money was allocated for, so.
Thank you.
Once that is, the idea is, once the sunroom addition is put on, then we can do an internal expansion of the children's room, which is one of the things that on the strategic plan, patrons really want is a larger children's room, and we certainly need we don't have room really for the programs, then people want to use the room, and it gets a little tricky. But so that's all, and that's not major expense because it's an internal expansion, but that's kind of all part of the
Okay,
picture.
thank you. Ed, questions? Patrick?
Not at the moment, thanks.
Okay. Diane, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, and Michael, do you have any questions? All set, thank you. Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve, or a motion to approve this transfer?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, all, all in favor, we're going to do a roll call. Kevin?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you, Jean, for coming.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Jean.
All right, so looking back at our agenda, we've taken care of the transfers, and now we're going to look at our minutes. We've received minutes online and now here on paper from the September 28th meeting, September 28th, 2022, and the October 18th, 2022 meetings. Does anyone have any questions or concerns about these minutes? So they will be accepted as presented. Does anyone have any questions? I have one for Ed. Could you send us that presentation?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, all in favor, Kevin?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Diane? And the chair votes yes. Thank you.